Revit is such an incredibly great program, but it's so complicated to learn, and there's so many complex parts that you have to figure out unless you have a complete guide. And that's what this is. Hi, I'm Brandon, and I'll be your instructor for this complete guide to Revit basics.
In this multi-video introduction to Revit, I help you understand the key elements of BIM and architecture design using Revit with step-by-step guides, demonstration, and materials. This part 2 of the Revit series includes basic house design in Revit, developing plans, walls, doors, windows, and furniture, as well as appliance layouts. If you're new to Revit, see part 1 for this series for the introduction to the interface and Revit geometry. And check the description for later parts of the series where we delve into schedules, building sections, and details.
Now let's go into a simple exercise that you will learn a little bit about the icons and some of the basic families in Revit. This will be a lot more helpful than just going over the menu and all the things, because I know you definitely want to start getting and creating things and seeing some professional methods as we go from that. We're going to go to New. And Revit gives you 3 options when you're starting a file. And there are templates that you can add as well. And there's actually 4 besides architectural. So if you're using it for structures or mechanical, you can also use those templates. We're just going to use architectural template, but the other ones work pretty much the same, and just looking at the different trades that will be involved. And you can also open and start a project, or you can start a project template. So it's useful to get that workflow, because if you're going to do something again and again, work on a template that you can bring into several projects. That's something that I regularly do, is make sure I'm working from a template that's really properly made. So we're going to open the Revit template for this project, and we'll press OK. So now you're going to see what happens from a real Revit project as you're loading, and seeing all the ugliness and the beauty at the same time. So let's just start by simply making a simple house, and we can choose anywhere in the canvas. Though there is a project's 0 point, we're just going to start it here. And in this exercise, we're just going to run through the systems, and you can replay it, and we're going to talk about the things that you learn, because I know a lot of people are really fast at this and some people are slower, but great thing about the class is you can just repeat anything that you're trying to learn. Alright, so we have, what we're going to do is a 40-foot by 40-foot by 40-foot footprint. And what we'll do is we'll go to that 3D button like we had before, and we see immediately that we've made 3D walls. And so if we click on a wall, we're going to expand out this information about the wall. You can see various information, and I'll just close these so we can go section by section. The top section is about the constraints on the wall, and this talks about where does your wall start and where does it end, and if there's something that is a feature like room bounding is applicable to your wall. Then we have structural elements. So the idea is if this wall is structural, you can list it here. Then you can work on the dimensions. When Revit, you select some objects, it will tell you one object, it will tell you the area, the volume, also the length. And if we click on that again, we'll also be able to see identity, where you can make a comment about the object. You can also make a particular type, and that'll be useful later. And then you can also work with phases. So Revit is used for a lot of renovations, because you can go inside and say, okay, we're doing this thing and then this thing here, and you can actually put multiple phases inside a Revit model, which is a really cool feature. Okay, well, since we have these walls, let's be working back and forth between level 1 and start to make a building. We're going to be looking at a Revit project that I have made already, and we'll look at the PDF to see the type of things that we're trying to do in this project. And I'll go through different elements as we go through in the project. Now let's jazz it up and finish this project. We can already, from looking at the wall, we can already make a floor boundary. So I click floor, and it gives you the menu that starts with properties and clipboard and some things you do with geometry, and it also goes for things you can measure, and you can also get information about the model. For instance, if we wanted to measure the distance from the wall, one thing I do is press tab, because tab can choose to use the inside or outside line to measure from, because Revit of course has walls, and you can look and see how large it is. But one of the favorite things I like about Revit, of course, is its ability to automatically connect your objects. So I make this floor, I press go, and then now when I move something, the floor actually moves with the wall. And to choose the wall, we can cycle through our selections with the tab button. And so here's our floor, and our wall is here. And now let's go ahead and make a few doors. We're going to make a door. And as we're starting to place things, you notice that we already see dimensions. So we saw that when we were making a wall, but now we see it where we can get something center, and we could also click to make a window, and you have that same sort of thing where it gives you a center, and we also can go ahead and make a roof. And it says, will you make it to the lowest level, and it will move it to level 2, so it's automatically helping us that we're not making a roof on the ground. But even if we did make it, we could change it, and we'll go through that. So this has the commands for roof. It has the same sets of commands where you can start making things, you can do different effects to them. We're going to just start by choosing the walls. We press tab to select all, and it immediately is already closed. And one thing that we can do, because we're obviously going to see where this lands us, is we can choose in the properties some functions of the roof. And so right now it says 9 on 12, and that's the properties of the entire roof. You can see the constraints. It can be constrained to a level. So there's a level, that's 1. This is level 2. And then we can choose what type of cut it is, and we'll see this in 3D. So we'll just leave that basic for now. And then we can choose our slope. So we're going to go ahead and put a 6 on 12. And we'll make sure that these all are 6 on 12. So we selected one object, and I'm going to press escape so we can move forward. I'm going to click modify, so sometimes you might get stuck in a command, so you press modify to stop that. So they're all 6 on 12, which is great. And we're not really concerned with any of that information. Let's just see what we're getting now. So now we're going back to 3D, and we see that our walls are taller than our roof. So no worries, we can just select, and we can go back to our filter to make sure we're only selecting the walls. Press OK. We'll click up to level 2. Now our wall is in right there. And so these right here are our levels, and you have to zoom in to see some of them. So our first level is at 0, and our second level is at 10. So you can set the levels just like you can set any other object. The levels will be your plan. The levels will be the way that if you're making particular details. So levels can also be, of course, you can make a tag for a level. But the idea is that if you change anything that's constrained to a level, it will change throughout your model. So that's a great thing about these levels. As we can see, our roof is actually not resting exactly where we want on the walls. Of course, it's resting on the inside of the walls. So all we need to do is click on the object and click Edit Footprint. And the footprint is not really a 3D. So we're going to actually select all the objects, select all the lines, and we're going to go to level 1 where we can see everything, and we'll try this again, and it chooses the outside lines. And now we're going to go to modify, and we'll select all these, and we'll change the slope back to 6/12. And because I clicked with this button, you'll see that this is going to be constrained. And now we looked at it's on the edge, it's already going straight down. So because I have these constrained, which is a great thing about Revit, if I just move the wall out, you'll see that the roof is automatically changed, and the floor as well. And we're going to undo, just pressing Ctrl Z or clicking right here, and you'll get back to what you're looking for. Alright, so let's go into the roof just a little bit more, and we notice that we can't see it on level 1. However, if we extend our project browser up just a little bit, we can see site, and in site you can see the roof. You also see these 4 boxes. These are called your elevation tags. And we're going to put an overhang of 3 feet. And so because they're parametrically linked to the wall, the overhang automatically knows, and all we need to do is use our measuring, and we can see that it's 3 feet from our edge. And we can also put a dimension within here, and we can press tab to make sure we're selecting the outside of that wall. We can verify that that is what we're looking for. Okay, now let's look at our view in an elevation. So the elevations are also in the level 1 plan. All we do is double click on the triangle, and we see our view. Now we click again, and if we click another one, the same thing happens. So you've seen that we've made a 6/12 roof, and that we've added these little items in, and it was just very simple, just from a few clicks. Now that we've looked at some of the basics of Revit, let's go into a little bit deeper with an actual exercise, and also deeper into the ribbon and what things are working for you as you are starting a project. You'll see in this viewport a simple project for a house. You'll see a plan view with some dimensions, and you'll also see some elevations and a 3D view, all of which we're going to work on. And this is going to be the exercise that you're going to make, and we're going to make a similar house, and you'll pick up the ideas for how to make it via watching this, and you can watch it again to figure this out. I've made a program with some of the regions from working with the first parts of this plan, and now we're going to go from this regions into walls, roof, and a floor, so you can see the process. And we'll talk about families as we're starting to add in some of the elements that will make your model come to life. So we're still working in the working drawing, and the issue is called working level. You see the layout of some basic spaces that are typically in a building. So these are all just text over different regional mass. Alright, so now that we have our plan, let's go and start populating with walls. We're just going to do the outside, and as we're starting to break into the commands, we are going to have 10-foot high walls. But we could just go to the second level, and I think that constraint will be something beneficial for us. We want to locate the wall exterior. So we're just going to do core exterior because we're doing basic. We'll chain these walls together, and we won't do any offsetting, and we'll just basically be joining all the walls. So let's start. And we see we're doing an 8-inch wall. We can change that setting if we would like later. And what you're seeing right now is a bit of draw order. You can't see these underneath these masses, so one thing I might do is select everything and make sure that we're only looking at our detail items. And as opposed to just seeing the lines, we want to turn it to transparent. So now we can see things underneath. And we'll just continue on. And I'm just going to start with exterior walls. And we're just going to keep drawing. We'll correct anything we have issues with later. And press escape to finish. And we see that this wall is not exactly where we want it, so I'm going to click on it. We're going to move that point down. And now let's start with some interior walls. And where we started off in our exterior as 8, we actually might want to do more of a wood frame on the inside, but this will probably look at the option for using a brick veneer, so I think it's a good starting point. Now we want to use a 5-inch for inside, and how we're going to use this one is, well, we make sure that we're using the side of the wall that we want. We're going up to level 2. We want to go to the core face interior, and we're going to connect this wall and automatically connect it. Though if we look at our line weights, you see these aren't exactly connected, so we probably want to change this just a little bit so it's precise. Or if things are not aligned, we want to make sure that things are aligning perfectly. And that's a great use of this command. And so that's one of the things we do in AutoCAD a lot, of making sure that things are perfectly aligning. So you can do that in Revit, get very precise models. And we're going to go finish through the rest of these. Now it's time to add some more detail to our model. We have our room set up, and this again is our working view. Let's look at our 3D view to see what we have. So we see that our program has become a bunch of walls, but why not start to populate these with doors and windows? So we're actually going to leave out of our working view where we worked on the program. Now we're looking at a plan, and so we can already foresee that we need doors, which you can press DR, or you click here. Each family is a particular geometric type, and you can choose different functions for it. So if you want a large door, then you click on the door command, just click into here, and you can choose a different size. Or you could even customize certain families. If you see the type properties, these are the family type properties. And it has all sorts of information from the finishes, which will be important for 3D rendering, to the dimensions, how it's constructed, and other information that would be useful in schedules. So we're not going to change any of those. But one thing we want to do, because we're working on this model and we're trying to keep centers, that's when we can start working with things like detail lines. and we just press DL. That's one of the ways to get detailed lines. And we just put a line through the middle of the model. And just pull it out, and we'll call this our center line. And so if we want to mirror something, you can mirror all sorts of elements. We mirrored the door right there. And so as we go back to our working level, we see that this is going to be a closet. And we can actually even copy. That's from our modify command. We clicked on these, and I press CO, or you could press copy to a clipboard. What we're really actually doing is just using this copy. So copy to clipboard is here, but we're just using a typical copy. We're going to go from here to here. We have to let's try that again. And if you see what's happening, it's constraining it. If we remove that constraint, it lets us copy what we were looking for. Alright, so now we have a plan, and if we look at it in 3D, we'll see we have all our doors here. So let's keep going to add some of the things that will make this real. One thing we now can add, since we have our doors, we probably want to put our floor down. And to make a floor, we can choose the pick walls, and we'll just pick all the outside walls, and that's our first level of floors. And one thing about it is, if you've seen it, it was picking the outside walls, but for our construction type, we're going to probably use the inside walls. So what we're going to do is we're going to offset 8 inches this entire wall, and we'll delete the other information there. So now we have our floors, and we're looking in the working view so we can get the footprint for our porch. And we just go back to making our next floor. And put that down as well. And as we look into 3D, we see that our floor is below the walls. And don't worry, this is because obviously if you're pouring a slab or something building, it will be below the walls. So one way to get around this is to just, for our model purposes, though in real world, you might actually make 2 different walls for different elements, but we're going to choose our outside walls by pressing Control, and it selects the entire outside walls, and we're actually going to go down 3 feet. And so immediately that sort of shows going to our foundation. Alright, so now we're going to go into some of the other parts of the building. We're going to close the working as we're pretty clear on what things we're using. And we're going to add some of the cabinetry, because the cabinetry is going to affect where other windows can be placed. So to add the cabinetry, we press CM. CM is a shortcut for place component. And we're looking for the cabinet if it's located in the model, and it's not. So what we can do is we can edit type, and we can just load the cabinetry or casework that comes already in Revit. So there are different types of cabinets that come. We're just looking for the countertop, because that'll help us just get started. We just want a basic countertop, and if we want to change it later, we can do that. So you can see the family of a countertop, and we see where it's placing. We're waiting for to make sure it's directly on this point, and we'll add a sink later, but for right now we'll just leave this. We're gonna click this, we press Control to select that whole item, and we're just going to be placing items in so that we have cabinetry here. And for our restroom, we'll also have cabinetry. And what we're going to do is, because we know that press CM, we're going to load a new cabinetry that has a place for a bathroom sink. So it's more of a vanity. So you see some of the different types of sinks that are here. So we press that one, that we have a simple vanity. And as you see what I did with this last one, it has grips that helps you move it. So that's one of the cool dynamic families that you can use to develop your model. And we're going to rotate this by 90. So I just clicked R, but you could also click on this button. And I'm actually going to start using Align a lot more. Just press AL. And Align is also in the Modify tool. And we're going to undo that. So sometimes the family things move separately. So when I pressed Align here, it only aligned part of the model. That's sort of how the family's set up. So sometimes you can use it, sometimes you can't. We're going to put this in that wall, and what we're going to do for this restroom is probably have two of these vanities, and we're actually going to add we're going to mirror this one vanity, and we actually kind of line the edge, and that will work properly. This didn't move, so that's helpful. And we're going to mirror this, and we're going to add some cabinetry on the side of this, which will be like our cabinet if we have it available. It might not be there, or we might have to customize it. Okay, so right now we're seeing that we don't really have such options. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually create a component now, and it's just going to be a placeholder, and we want that placeholder to possibly be, and we're pressing Control so we can get that dimension. We're going to make that placeholder 3 feet. So I just move this over a little bit, and we'd rather just make a detail line to find out the information that we wanted, and we're just going to move this. So be careful with the line. A line has some good features and sometimes it's confusing. I'm going to mirror this, and we're going to change this now. Alright, and now that we have this, we're going to make our component for our cabinetry. And so we're just going to do basic cabinetry. We are going to look at 3D to see what this created. It's going to be exciting, but at the same time, we're doing it one thing at a time. Okay, we're going to model in place, and we're going to call it casework. And it's called casework 1. And so now we're going to see a whole different types of functions. So I'll actually go back here sort of quickly. These are some 3D things that you can make, so where you can just play around with the different types of forms. You can add words, and you have also some other options. So we're making an extrusion, and so the way that we make extrusions is we just click the dimensions that we want, and we actually are going to start at 0, and we're going to go up 8 feet to be the same place where we're going to put our windows. And we're going to press start and enter, and we'll see what this is doing. We see that's providing a nice tall cabinet. And we're just going to keep it basic like that for a mass. This is just a schematic model. We're just figuring some stuff out. Okay, now let's add our windows. And let's look at the window family. The window family, we can choose a little information here, but when we go into edit type, we see a lot more information. And now we'll look at a little bit more into loading your families, because we're going to use quite a lot of families to make a good house plan. So let's load. And if you look at what you see when you press load, you'll see in the file structure that Revit has a set of libraries, which are in US. It also has metric, imperial. So we're going to go ahead and use the imperial. That means we're working in feet. And we're going to look at a different type of window. So you can see the different categories of things that you can use: annotations, boundaries, casework columns, conduits, detail items. That's when you're doing details drawing. And then you look at different types of doors and several different objects, including openings, plantings, specialty equipment. So that's where you might get different furniture items. We'll look into that later. But we're trying to get some windows. So let's look at some of the windows that are available. Each of these windows has particular types of settings, and we find the one that we like the most. For me, I really like the fixed window. So they have different types. So each one will have a certain ability of flexibility. I want to probably go with a casement single that doesn't open. So a fixed casement. So here we are. We have all those settings right here. And we click it and it tells you the different sizes you might use. So I know that I'm looking for windows for the kitchen and windows for the bedrooms. So I probably want some windows that start at 3 feet that go to 8 feet, and I want some windows that go probably from 1 foot to 8 foot. So that already gives me a lot of information. I'm looking for windows that are probably 2 feet by 6 or 2 feet by 7 feet. And I see that the maximum it's giving me is by 5, so I might need to customize some windows. And I also like seeing the 3 by 5. And also just, of course, very simple, want to use our 3 feet windows. Just in case. But we're pretty sure that we're going to be using 2 by 5s. And we're going to customize and make our own family for one of the larger windows that we're going to be using. So it's loading the families. It's the same family with different settings. And so you see that we have the 4 that we chose. And we're going to add some. So we're going to duplicate one of the families that we have here. And we're actually going to make it by 7 feet. So 7 feet equals 84 inches. So we're going to come and we look at the dimensions, and where it says height, we're going to put 7 feet. And some of these values are parametrically linked. So we're going to start with these settings. We're going to start putting our 24. And again, we love the idea of things being centered. Just to give a heads up a little bit, we are going to be making cabinetry, and so that's going to be something that will affect us. So we're going to make a detail line, press DL, 2 feet, and that's going to be one of our constraints that we're going to be watching out for. And so besides that, we'll probably mirror this. And we'll probably add a window in between. And so now to make this beautiful, of course, we want to probably have some similar action like this. I press mirror to the other side of the building. And as we have this done, now we have our first set of windows. But they're too tall. So we're going to click inside these windows. And we can see how many are selected right here. and select all 6 of our windows, and we want them to be at 1 foot high. And our front door, probably we want to have it as a unique family, so we're going to go into Edit Type. We see only one type of family in this model, so we're going to load again from this directory a nice residential front entry door. So I think something like this should be fine, but we'll look at some of the others that are in here just to see what's available. And I think we'd really like something simple like this. And so we have a 2 foot dimension on our windows. This one being 3 foot by 8 foot would be really great. So we're just gonna import this 3 foot by 8 foot door, and the styles are fine. So we look at this door family, and we see the different things that are setting for this, where we're looking at the dimensions, we're looking at some of the properties. So it's a lot more than the window, but still you can see all these, and just be careful if you're changing them to make sure that it's fine. You can always undo if you've changed something and it screws up. Okay, we're fine with the 36 by 96 door. And it's loading, and there we are. It's opening into our building. So we're starting to have a little bit of a style. Alright, so now we're going to go into some of the other parts of the building. We're going to close the working as we're pretty clear on what things we're using. And we're going to add some of the cabinetry, because the cabinetry is going to affect where other windows can be placed. So to add the cabinetry, we press CM. CM is a shortcut for place component. And we're looking for a cabinet if it's located in the model, and it's not. So what we can do is we can edit type, and we can just load the cabinetry or casework that comes already in Revit. So there are different types of cabinets that come. We're just looking for the countertop, because that'll help us just get started. We just want a basic countertop, and if we want to change it later, we can do that. So you can see the family of a countertop, and we see where it's placing. We're waiting for to make sure it's directly on this point, and we'll add a sink later, but for right now we'll just leave this. We're gonna click this and press Control to select that whole item, and we're just gonna be placing items in so that we have cabinetry here. And for our restroom, we'll also have cabinetry. And what we're gonna do is, because we know that press CM, we're gonna load a new cabinetry that has a place for a bathroom sink. So it's more of a vanity. So you see some of the different types of sinks that are here. So we press that one, that we have a simple vanity. And as you see what I did with this last one, it has grips that helps you move it. So that's one of the cool dynamic families that you can use to develop your model. And we're gonna rotate this by 90. So I just clicked R, but you could also click on this button. And I'm actually going to start using Align a lot more. Just press AL. And Align is also on the Modify tool. And we're going to undo that. So sometimes the family, things move separately. So when I pressed Align here, it only aligned part of the model. That's sort of how the family's set up. So sometimes you can use it, sometimes you can't. We're going to put this in that wall. And what we're going to do for this restroom is probably have 2 of these vanities, and we're actually going to we're going to mirror this one vanity, and we actually kind of line the edge, and that will work properly. This didn't move, so that's helpful. And we're going to mirror this, And we're gonna add some cabinetry on the side of this, which will be like our cabinet if we have it available. It might not be there, or we might have to customize it. Okay, so right now we're seeing that we don't really have such options. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually create a component now, and it's just going to be a placeholder, and we want that placeholder to possibly be, and we're pressing Control so we can get that dimension. We're going to make that placeholder 3 feet. So I just move this over a little bit, and we'd rather just make a detail line to find out the information that we wanted, and we're just going to move this. So be careful with the line. A line has some good features and sometimes it's confusing. I'm going to mirror this, and we're going to change this now. Alright. And now that we have this, we're going to make our component for our cabinetry. And so we're just going to do basic cabinetry. We are going to look at 3D to see what this created. It's going to be exciting, but at the same time, we're doing it one thing at a time. Okay, we're going to model in place, and we're going to call it casework. And it's called casework 1. And so now we're going to see a whole different types of functions. So we're making an extrusion, and so the way that we make extrusions is we just click the dimensions that we want, and we actually are going to start at 0, and we're going to go up 8 feet to be the same place where we're going to put our windows. And we're going to press start and enter, and we'll see what this is doing. We see that's providing a nice tall cabinet. And we're just going to keep it basic like that for a mass. This is just a schematic model. We're just figuring some stuff out. And now we're going to actually add some of our windows, and we're actually going to press WN for our windows. And these windows that are going to go over the sink, we're going to make those going to be 5 feet. So we're going to do 24 by 60. So some people like to have mirrors over there. We're going to have it where the mirror would be, we're going to add a detail line right in the middle. We will have a mirror sort of in the middle, so a little bit of artistic license. And be mindful which side the window is on. So I believe the window is going to be the other way around. And this is a flip command. Very useful. And one other thing is now we're looking at our bathroom, and if we look at clearance for walking and such, we want like 3 feet. We see that we're a little bit short. So our bathroom, we probably want to have it at a bathtub, and we are actually might even want to put the bathtub on this side of the space. So using the information we have here, we have to figure out some design moves. So we'll go back to our working level. So let's make a region for our toilet. We'll probably have that as 3 by 5. And we might want to have a similar dimension for our shower. And therefore we'd put it in the side. And so maybe these doors can shrink a little bit because they're pretty big. Oh, they're 30 inches. So maybe not. So this is one of the space figuring out issues. We might have the ability just to put our toilet, we'll take the constraint off in the corner. If we put that in the corner, we might be able to sneak a tub in the middle and put our cabinetry on this side. I think we could try that out. Let's try that out. And so if we're looking at the space we're looking for, we're going to add a simple wall, and it's going to be 3 feet, and we're going to make sure we have the inside dimension properly with a dimension tag. And so we see that we're not getting our 3 feet on the inside, so let's go to 3 feet. And now if we want to take this dimension, we know that's 3 feet. Maybe it's changed a little bit. Let's make sure. We can move this back to 3 feet. And now we probably want to have, now that we have some dimensions for a bathroom, we want to have our cabinetry on this side and a tub on, and we'll probably bring the cabinetry inside, or maybe have one tall unit and maybe our cabinetry on this side, and we're going to rotate this 180, and we want to at least have this as 2 foot, or we want to have this at least at 3 foot. So, and we're going to move the wall, move this element, and don't worry about the doors. Doors move when you move walls, which is a great function. And remember, we're trying to get a particular dimension. We're just extending that point. We're trying to get at least 3 feet. And let's add another 6 inches. And so now we can just download 21 inches to get the middle where our sink would be. We just move that straight down. And now we're going to change the size of our little tall cabinet. We just want to move it, and though it's an edit in place component, you can change the grips. You can't change the footprint unless you go in and click edit in place. And we're going to mirror, pull this all down. And because that does seem a little bit cramped, we're going to give 4 feet. I'm going to come out 1 more foot so people have enough space. And since we figured out a lot of this stuff, we'll take out those construction lines. And now we're going to add some of the information that would help us for our walls. So right now we're going to make a 5-foot shower and a 5-foot toilet. And we're going to press Control so we can hit the edge. And we want this at minimum to be 5 foot. And so since this would need to come in, we'll just go ahead and push this in. We moved it in 5. Move this in 5. And we know we need to move a lot more in, so we'll probably come in as almost as close as possible. 3 inches in, 3 inches in. And will we get our 5 with that? Not yet. So we can go ahead and maybe make a little smaller toilet, probably the minimum. We'll pull this in maybe 1 more inch. And as opposed to making that again, we're just going to click it. And this computer's a little bit slow. We're going to mirror that. Now we're finishing out this bathroom, and we're going to finish it out with some nice simple doors, 30 by we're trying to get 8-foot doors, so we're going to actually change that, but we're going to leave it right now, and we're going to align the doors, and going to mirror this door. And we're going to add a window, sort of the same style that we have there. We'll press WN for window, and we're going to get the center line of this area. It's not exactly on the center line. Click it here. And we'll actually just do an unline. Because we want to be a little more design centric, we'll go ahead and move this out 1 more foot so we have enough space for our window design. And that means we'd be moving this 6 inches to keep it centered. And we're going to measure that distance we have in between these 2 windows. That's 4 inches right here. So we'll do this 2 inch. And we copy that there. And all we need to do now is see, will our bathtub fit? This might start us to, it's probably a minimum size on a tub as well. But if we look into our 3D view now, we can see the makings of a sort of thin bathroom. And now it's time to put in some of the furniture that'll help fulfill this design to really be communicated. Again, we're working in plan, but also in 3D. That's one of the great things about Revit. If we go back to our plan, we see the different areas that we're trying to fill. So let's go little area by area. Let's start with the kitchen. Everyone loves the kitchen. We're looking for our stove. We're looking for an island. And then we're looking for table. But first and foremost, we will note that we're missing a door. Well, a lot of times people don't want a door that goes into their kitchen. They'd rather have like an opening. So let's add that, and then we'll start adding the wonderful things that go inside of our kitchen. So to add a opening to a wall, we click on the wall, and there's a modify wall command here where we get to add an item. And so what we want to do is we've drawn the center line. We want this opening to be about 7 feet. So we're gonna offset this, and offset is one of the commands. If you click a line in the modify, you can offset a line right here, or you press OF. But now that we have our wall opening, we're using thin lines so we can see everything. We're going to align this opening, and we're going to add a new opening to this wall that goes into the living room. And sometimes it doesn't hit directly on our points, so we just go ahead and click this and align. So now we have this opening in this great big area, which is probably too large, but we're fine. And because of this size, we might even just make these walls a little bit thicker for the presence. We just click on that wall, select 8 inch. We're just having some general sizes right now. Okay, so we're gonna add a stove. So we're gonna go back to our load families. We're adding a component. We're going to look for some of our kitchen equipment, which you can find in your specialty equipment folder. This is domestic, so you can see there's lots of kitchenettes, which is also cool. But we want to maybe look for maybe some mid-range. We'll be using some of those. So we'll add a refrigerator, and that refrigerator will probably come at one of the ends, and we'll go in here. This again is a family. We can choose certain things we want. We don't want to show the label. Some other information is there. Rotate this 90 degrees and move it to here. We give a little bit of space, probably 2 feet. And 3 feet to be the safest. And press 1 for a foot. And so we're gonna have to probably think about that as we figure this whole area out, because as we start to see, our refrigerator is going to be really big. So let's add our island now, and we can place things later. So we probably want an island that doesn't take up too much space. So maybe 30 inches by 10. So we'll see what basis options we have. We'll click on this line, and we're just going to do 30 inches. And each one of these, we just come down 3 feet 6. That's not too bad. 3 foot 6. Before we leave this extrusion, we want to go ahead and set. It starts at 0 and ends at 30. And here we're gonna give ourselves 3 feet off the main area. So that's our island. And our refrigerator could possibly go into this niche that we have. So this is always a fun challenge. Or maybe we could just put this refrigerator in this corner. And one of the things that's going to go in the middle is our stove. We could just change it to having another possibility is put our stove on the island. We'll just use a 2-inch reveal here, and actually I think we're pretty good to add our windows around. So this little clearance is really good. We sort of have a fat refrigerator. I'll see if we can change it in the settings. So if we want to have it, right now it's about, the depth is really fat. We're gonna go ahead and say maybe we want it 2, see if it will change. It might be in the family. Yeah, there it is. So sometimes we like to have a flush refrigerator. And we're gonna add a little piece for a custom size that fits the same size as the refrigerator. We'll just call that casework. And we're not labeling our groups here, but you can see that it's part of, if we wanted to label them, we could be organizing a lot of these while we're working. Okay, we're going to make an extrusion. And we always choose the rectangle when it's that simple. We want this to go up 8 feet, and it will align with the top of the windows. And now you can look from 3D We have a couple model spaces now. We see that our windows are aligning there. Now our refrigerator is a little bit shorter than we want. Maybe if we can change this a little bit, we can get that 8 foot high. Or another alternative is we could always come in here and just put cabinetry on the top, because obviously you might not be able to choose your refrigerator height. So you're getting a little bit of a lesson in modeling. And actually, we'll actually use the align command while we're able to play around with that. We just align this. We have a better looking kitchen already. Alright, and we're going to move our counter so it doesn't run into our refrigerator. And now let's add our sink and add our stove. We're going to load the family for a stovetop in our mid-range. And I think we're fine with using a range that's electric. And actually, since we're not going to add this in here, but sometimes people want to use a wall oven as opposed to a stove. For our purposes, we'll go ahead and add a stove. We're actually going to change this to a range top, cooktop. And as you put items in, you can always choose the elevation as well. So I'm going to click this. I'm going to rotate that 180 degrees. Just click our starting point, 180. And we're going to make it so we can turn off. We go inside here and turn off the label. Now we're going to load our sink. Before we load our sink, since we know we want to put our washer and dryer, we'll go ahead and we're going to forego the dishwasher for now. But we know we're going to add a washer dryer combo. Just put that in our facility room right here. Alright, so we have our washer dryer for later. And we can actually in 3D check out which direction it's in, so we can make sure we're not looking too silly. Okay, it's a little bit backwards. And we actually might want to put this like this. As you can see, it also goes underneath the cabinetry, which is very nice. Alright, so we have our kitchen, but we need to have our sink. So while we're here, let's go ahead and go back to our family loader. We're going to go to our plumbing. So Revit gives a lot of these great ones. I'm going to give some links for some custom families that you can also use in your models a little bit later. I'm going to put this in first and then we'll look at that. Well, let's go to fixtures, and now we're going to look for sinks. And there's all sorts of interesting sinks. Since we want a kitchen sink, that's probably a double. We'll just choose this one. And we're going to put it right by the window. And just load that in. And it's already in the right place. So there we are, we have a kitchen. And it's starting to look nice. So we're going to start with our master bedroom. And so one of the things that people don't like is a master bathroom that is so accessible as opposed to having like a little space in between. So one of the things we'll add to this master bedroom to make it look nicer is a bit of a vestibule. So our vestibule will come in, we'll look at this, maybe 3 feet. And we're actually going to put our door and a bit wider. And this is where your design decisions come in. We probably want to offset this to come in. And what we can do on the side of the bedroom is probably make little built-in cabinetry there. And so when people come into the bedroom, as opposed to because some people don't like to have a straight entry, I think one nice thing would be to make a bit of a 3-foot little doorway where people can come in. You see a lot of things have been repeated here. That's the thing to watch out when you're copying an item. You don't need this door. And this is just part of our modern aesthetic, where we just have like a bit of a floating wall right here, and we may just do a small opening. And all we need to do to make this opening work is align it to this door. And we give it a little bit of thickness. And so now we have a bit of a concealed bed wall. And we actually might even align this door. And now we have a bit of a private space here. Now let's add our master bed. And we're going to go to our families again. And we're looking at our furniture. So there's a simple set of furnitures that you have in Revit. Revit's furnitures are basic. When we finish adding the furniture, I will look at some of the places and resources where you can start to customize, but this is cool for getting just the idea out and getting it in 3D. We just want a standard bed, and we have the various sizes of standard beds in Revit. So we want to make this a king size bed. We just see that attribute is right there. We want to rotate this 90 degrees. And come off the wall maybe a few inches. And we'll just check for clearances right here. Yeah, that about 3 feet. We don't really need to have it too much. Some people, of course, want to have a nice set of tables beside their bed. This room obviously is not leaning in so much of that, but we'll make some small little night tables. Add some. And we just want a little night table. We see what sort of things are here. Maybe this little end table will work. And we'll put one in here, and we'll choose some sizes that will make sense. Probably want to make a little 12 by 12. So it's a little cute one. 12, 12. We've added that family in, and we just come here and do 1 by 1. And we just align that with here. And just maybe get it a little closer. Come out 2 inches. And we probably want to pull this whole thing back so it's a little close to the wall. And so immediately you have like a little bit of a zone here for the master bedroom and closet. And so we have a few things to add for our kitchen and dining. We're going to load our families for our table, and we want to have a simple table. We're fine with a long table that looks nice. Then we just put something in the middle, and now we're just going to add some chairs. Now load our chairs in, also from the Revit collection, and some interesting options. We'll come back for some chairs for our living as well. And this is the center of our table. And we're going to come over here. When we see this area in the middle, it's sort of big. We probably want a bigger kitchen. Let's come in 1 foot on each side. Okay, that makes the space a little more believable. And we might even go ahead and pull this door in. Instead of having opening here, put that opening in this wall. And you're seeing some of the live editing that you can do in Revit. It's happening all in 3D as we're coming up with this. Now we're going to add some seating for our living. So we have a good set of options for seating, or interesting at least. Let's make some interesting choices. Maybe we'll do Corbusier for this living ensemble. You might want to add these on the side, 90. Rotate that, and now we're going to add in our front the larger couch. And our fireplace is looking pretty small right now, so we probably want to increase that up a little bit. We're not going to load a fireplace for this yet. We'll just be basic right now. But we do want some end tables. We're actually going to take these that I use in the bedroom. We're going to unconstrain it, come over to this corner, and make this the 24 by 24 ones. And we'll look at this family to see if we have a little more freedom. The Corbu couch, if we can make it a little bit longer. Maybe we could make it 7 feet. That's a proper size. Yeah, there we are. And so starting to have some interesting things going on. And we'll add a table in the middle. We're going to go to our tables. And see what options are nice. And a coffee table would suit here. And we probably want to have a proper size. Let's see if we have some good ones. Maybe this works. No, it's still pretty small. Okay, 72. That's starting to look serious. We just come back 6 inches. Maybe pull this back 6 inches or 8 inches. And let's see what happens if we... And maybe this does need to be a square. We'll go ahead and just make it 36 by 36. And there we have it. We have a kitchen, a bedroom, closet. Now we look in 3D and we see we have an entirely 3D model. Alright, so our porch is a little unfinished right now. We probably want to add some columns here. And when you look at the columns, you have the option for architectural or structural. You probably want a column that's maybe 8 by 8. And so we're just going to duplicate, make it 8 inch by 8 inch. And we'll come in here and we'll just do 8 by 8. And these are, I'm just leaving the nominal dimensions. You can change them if you're working on, this is a generic model, so keep it simple. Or you can start adding in. For instance, 7 1/4 would be how much this would be if we're looking at lumber or timber dimensions. But it's fine because I'm not going to get too complicated with using it right now. And we're going to work on some of that later with understanding the value of these. So my outside wall dimensions, so now we're going to get a little serious, is 16. My porch dimension is 16. You're going to see why that's important when I come up with the model. Now we're going to play with arraying as we're moving this column to copy on our porch. We're going to array here in the modify commands, and we want 4 objects. This is how you array in Revit, a linear array. Now as we want to start looking at our model more than just a 3D, let's go ahead and go to level 1. Let's move these elevations. So when you click on an elevation triangle, again that moves part of it, but we want to click the elevation to be a little closer, so when we get our model out of here for exporting, going to the external, that will be very simple and easy to understand. So let's click on that arrow, and now we start to see our building in perspective, well, in elevation. So now we're going to add our roof. So let's make a roof for this structure and start to work on the outside so it makes more sense. And you'll see why I did the dimensions from the beginning as we work on this. So now we're going to add our roof. So having all the internal systems, Revit made this pretty simple. What's the process for making our roof? So it's a little more complicated. It says going to level 2, and that's fine. But what I want to do is I want to make a simple gable on both one gable going long and one gable going tall. And so I could just draw it, but I want to align it with these walls. So I'm going to go ahead and just select it to my major walls. And actually we're overlapping right here, which we don't want. And so those are connected with the walls. We click on Control to select all those. And we want a 2'6" overhang. You want these to be 12 on 12. And we actually only want the angles on these sides. So we're not looking for a hip roof. It's very distinctive when you see the type of roof that we're going to make. And now we're going to add a roof for this long part of our building. And we're going to select the edges again. And this time we're going to select that. And make sure that we have the right line. We're going to constrain it right there so that when we move it, just like with the walls, it will be constrained. So we have those items, and we're going to make sure that these two slopes in our roof are 12 on 12, and this is also a roof family, and we'll look at some of the construction shortly. And we're going to make our ends gable ends, and they are not going to define a slope. Let's see what we have now in 3D. Now we have a nice sort of form. Nice simple form. We are seeing that some of the things are not going through because we don't have our overhang. So we're going to put our overhang in here. Since we don't see our roof in level 1, we can go to site plan to see that. And we can have this, probably want to have this is 2'6". You probably want to have our gable end something closer to 1 foot. And this gable, we're just doing manually because it's not a wall. We'll come back into this roof. We'll put this as 1 foot as well. We are going to add a simple additional roof, and we're going to make this just simply covering these walls, and we'll go ahead and constrain it to the wall. And we'll come back in, and so it will bridge the gap. We're going to pull this in, and we don't want this sloping. You only want a gable sloping, and we really don't even want that sloping. We just want this one, so it's going up one direction, and we're going to actually do a little bit longer so it runs into this roof. You'll see what I was doing now. So now we see what's happening. And so to make our little detail again, we're going to come back on these two walls and do our 1 foot overhang, as we've been doing everywhere. And we're doing this one at 2'6". And as you will look into our west elevation, all of our eaves align. So one thing we want to do, of course, as we look at our model, we'll see that there is a blank face above these. Now we're going to look into the concept of joining our walls to our roof. So we're building a model here Everything's interesting and new, so bear with me. We're figuring it all out. So I'm bringing these roofs to match this wall, and we're just going around our entire model, just attaching the relevant walls to the relevant ceilings. We're going to go to level 2. We're actually going to make a little wall right above our post. And right now it might not really have a location, so we're just going to attach it to the roof. So we're going to press Control and select all these. We're going to attach them all to this roof. And we're going to take these walls one by one, because some of the walls that are attached to the other parts of the building we don't want to attach here. We're going to attach these to this roof. And we actually, because we're making a fireplace, we actually can go ahead and just keep this wall going up, because we probably want to go up. We probably want to detach it from the roof, and we can go up maybe 20 feet, and maybe we go up another 20 or another 6 feet. And may go ahead and copy this in our plan. So this is one of the sort of little tricks. This won't be in our roof. We're gonna actually go up 26, but we're gonna come in. So now we have the full enclosure for our fireplace, and we're going to add a opening here, and that's going to be one of the things that helps us work on our fireplace. And we're going to use our dimension tag, and we've just changed the shading. We don't need that. Hitting line would be fine. And we're going to see how much we can come in. So maybe we move that out 18 inches. And then we'll have our fireplace and our chimney. It's the basic story. Alright, so we have our roof now connecting. Our back roof is the last thing we're working on. We're going to attach this. And so it looks like we have a house. And so that's our simple house, Revit. So now we probably want to bring this wall down. We'll just come down. We can cut our roof and some of the items, but since we're not really concerned with that, we'll just bring this down. We're gonna come down -2 feet, and we're actually gonna put a window here. I'm gonna go to our west elevation and press WN. And we probably want a small little window. It doesn't have to be something major. Maybe a 24 by 48 or close like that. 24 by 36 could work. And we come up 1 foot. And we can add a similar type. And we're actually going to move this wall actually down -1, and we will need to cut this roof so it doesn't run into our our door. So one of the great things about it is it's an overhang that doesn't run into our windows if it's stopped. Right here it does. So we're going to go into here and we're going to work on one of the tools called vertical opening. We're just going to select that roof. We're going to come to our site plan. We're going to go from the middle. And we're going to go out to the edges of there. And that's going to be an opening. And now when we look back at our model, nothing's in the way of our porch. And so it's working on getting a proper model. We do see an opening here now in our wall, so we'll look into that now. Each wall is unique. You can make profiles for them, you can make them unique, you can add different effects to them. So what we're going to do is edit the profile, and unfortunately we'll have to remove its attachment to the roof, but the great thing about it is we can just use the roof line, and we just can choose a line, and we just can use our trim command. And now we just save that. We've unjoined it, but now we have it without any seam. We can do the same thing right here. We just come in here, click Edit Profile, and it's going to give us an error, but that's fine. We're prepared for it. And just connect this to this, this to this, this to this. Remove the top of the wall, and we can unjoin the elements. So now we have a proper house, and we have some interesting things going on. For the sake of understanding a little bit about the site, we're just going to make a basic site that will be under our building, and that will make an interesting way of how you're going to see how everything relates. And we're going to add a little bit of step right before a porch, and then we'll come up with some views as we're going to go into our sheets. Right, from our site drawing, the way to create a site is going to our massing, and right now we're going to make a semi topo. We're just going to have points at -1 feet. And we're just going to make 4 of them just out in space. And our building will be pretty basic. So but you'll see in our model now that we have a ground, and our porch is a little bit floating. So what we can do is make some walls, and now we're going to make some custom walls. These walls are going to go from -1, and actually we're going to start at -3, and we're going to go to -1. -1 off of, or we can just say 2 feet. So it'll be right under the porch. And it's making a note because you can't see the walls. And so we'll look to see where our walls are. Walls are straight underneath here. And our porch actually is 12 inches, sorry. So you're not going to see that. So that's fine. We just wanted it basic. Okay, so now as we can go shade it, you can see that our building is coming together nicely. So now we probably want to bring this wall down. We'll just come down. We can cut our roof and some of the items, but since we're not really concerned with that, we'll just bring this down. We're gonna come down -2 feet, and we're actually gonna put a window here. I'm gonna go to our west elevation and press WN. And we probably want a small little window. It doesn't have to be something major. maybe a 24 by 48 or close like that. 24 by 36 could work. And we come up 1 foot, and we can add a similar type, and we're actually going to move this wall actually down -1, and we will need to cut this roof so it doesn't run into our door. So one of the great things about it is it's an overhang that doesn't run into our windows if it's stopped. Right here it does. So we're going to go into here, and we're going to work on one of the tools called vertical opening. We're just going to select that roof. We're going to come to our site plan. We're going to go from the middle, and we're going to go out to the edges of there, and that's going to be an opening. And now when we look back at our model, nothing's in the way of our porch. And so it's working on getting a proper model. We do see an opening here now in our wall, so we'll look into that now. Each wall is unique. You can make profiles for them, you can make them unique, you can add different effects to them. So what we're going to do is edit the profile, and unfortunately we'll have to remove its attachment to the roof, but the great thing about it is we can just use the roof line, and we just can choose a line, and we just can use our trim command. And now we just save that. We've unjoined it, but now we have it without any seam. We can do the same thing right here. We just come in here, click Edit Profile, and it's going to give us an error, but that's fine. We're prepared for it. And just connect this to this, this to this, this to this. Remove the top of the wall, and we can unjoin the elements. So now we have a proper house, and we have some interesting things going on. Okay, so now let's look at all of our elevations to see what sort of things we're getting in our building. Right now we see that we have our level tags, which is our datum tags. They probably need to come in. So before we export this model, probably gonna bring all these in on each of our views. So our west view, and we're gonna do the same for all our views, get them cleaned up. Now that we have our model pretty much modeled in Revit, we want to now go from inside of developing that model to being able to communicate that to others through drawing sets, through sheets, and through perspectives. So that's what we're about to do. As you can see from this window, it's very comprehensive, and from the things that we've been working on, we have a lot of information. So let's go into a little bit about annotations right before we get into our sheets, and also perspectives. So we already have a dimension, and if you remember how we do dimensions, we just go to our Annotate tab, and we can click Linear Dimension, or we press DI, it's the same thing. And one thing that's useful is to get an overall dimensions. And you see that Revit went to the center of the wall. Don't worry, we can change that. And one thing it has is it will have a string of dimensions. I press Control so I get that outside. I press Control and I can get this one, and I'm left clicking each one of these. And so those are some major dimensions. And what that's called is we just exit out of the command. And what it's called is witness lines. You can click it here and it will tell you about the witness lines you can take or add. You can even change the line. But here's another way to change a line. Since we see this is in the middle, we just click that middle point and it goes to a new location. And so we actually don't need that one, of course. So let's make an overall dimension. And we're wanting the side of that column. We're wanting the outside of this wall. And we also want to get some dimensions on this side of the house. We'll go all the way to the end of the fireplace, our big dimension, and then we'll make a string of dimensions. And we'll just go to each of these, and we'll probably replace that little porch one. And finally we have here. And we just delete that one. And so now we have a set of dimensions for our plan. And if we go to our elevations, we have an east elevation. What we can do when we look at our east, our north, our south, and our west, right before we get started putting it on the sheet, we probably want to have it in a crop view so that we won't be all over the place. So we're going to crop it right before we get in there. So to crop your views, we are going to first go down here to uncrop view, and then we'll show the crop, and then we'll just get to our dimension that we'd like. So we're bringing it all in to the closest possible to the house, and we'll bring our bottom up. And we double clicked outside, which closed this. We didn't open it as an edit group to modify like we can do here with edit profile, but you can just drag the crop bar. And so we'll do the same thing here. We'll show the crop region, and we'll drag that, and it automatically brought the levels with it. And we'll click off, and then we'll go to our north elevation. We'll do the same thing where we drag it in on both sides. And what we can also do is just go back and hide the crop region after we're finished. We want to show the crop region here. We're just pulling that straight in and put that straight in. So now we have everything in a controlled crop region. We'll double click our middle mouse button to see everything. And we might want to bring our points closer to our little edge for our level, closer to the inside. We're doing this on all of our views. We're going to leave our views, we have the views we want, except for a perspective. So let's add a perspective drawing. So here's how you add perspective. We'll click on level 1, and we'll also control the view here. We probably want to just bring everything in. And we want to come here to this top bar icon where it says default view, camera, or walkthrough. So we'll create a camera view. We probably want to see a little bit of the house. So that takes us to a new view, and it's a little bit cropped, so we want to make it wider. And so just come in here, make it larger. And one thing, because it seems very maybe too much perspective, we probably want to come in here and click our navigation wheel, and here we can start to walk around that 3D view. And we'll probably do this where we'll come out a little bit so we see more of the house. We press escape to exit that, and then we lower everything so we can get a good crop. And just for visual sake, we might turn on the shadows. And another cool thing you can add is we'll save it just in case it crashes. We want to also click on our visual style, and in the visual style we have the option for ambient shadows, which are also very useful. You see how they give a little bit of a character to the drawing. And we can also choose if we want to have sketchy lines. So that will make things a little more like a sketch. Just have a little bit of jitter. And so it looks like it's hand drawn just a little bit. Now that we have our drawing sets that we want to put, let's get a sheet size. Okay, so if we scroll down, and I like to collapse all so I can choose one. We go to sheets, and since we don't have one, we right click and click new sheet. And here are some formats that are already in Revit, but we're going to load from here a title block that's 24 by 36, and 22 by 34 is pretty valid for what we're using now. To edit this, we can just go into the family. So as we want to actually make it a true 24 by 36, we can just double click on it, and now we're editing a family for the first time. And this detail family is something that we will have to save separately, but don't worry, it's just a very simple edit. So to make this 24 by 36, we're just gonna make some lines, and we'll make a box. And whereas this right now is 22 by 34, we can just very simply stretch this down and stretch it down another inch, and we can just do the same thing. Be sure not to leave it on this side. Sorry. So we're make sure we're in the family editor, and we're doing 2 inches on this side. And so this is our new 24 by 36, and we're going to save it in our project. And we're going to save it as 24 by 36. And we'll just make it labeled so we know that we put it there. We call it revised. So we want to load it in the project and close. And now we just go to our unnamed, and whereas it said this 22 by 34, we can choose a 24 by 36, just like that. We might go in there to edit this a little bit, but for right now we're going to put things on this page. Alright, so the way to put items on a drawing page is simply by dragging it. You see that it's on the page, and letting it drop onto the page. And it already gives you a number, a title, and the scale. And if you change the scale, it will change automatically. And you can see this is a type of family, so you could always actually click this and change anything that you're looking to change. We're fine with what it has for now, but again, these are some options for customizing your family of your viewport. So let's put in our elevations. Actually, we do want to show our site as well, and we probably want to go and make sure we've cropped the site. So doing one at a time. We'll double click into our site, and we'll check that crop region, and we'll probably crop it into here. The great thing about the site plan is that you'll get to see the roof. Okay, we go back to the sheet, and we'll just say this. We'll label this, and we go to our properties. We'll scoot down our browser, and we'll label this drawing. We click on the space, we'll see what its name. It says sheet number here, and it says sheet name. We just go in here and say drawing set, and we'll put SD. Okay, so we have our plan here. Put our site plan here, and we probably want our site plan maybe 1 to 16. But for our sake, since we're not really showing too much, we can just make that 1/8 inch, sort of small. Maybe we'll put this to 1/4, or actually we make this 1/8 inch because it's sort of small. We'll make sure we see what we can fit on the page when we do this. Residential, you typically go to 1/4 if possible. It's going to be a little bit tight to get our elevations on the page, so we have to strategize that. And you see that I've been moving this around, but if we want to, and I double click the middle mouse button if I go off screen, we can move our title just like that, and we have our site plan. And then we can also add our elevations. So we'll add our east elevation first, then our north elevation, and then our south elevation, and then we're checking to see if it's possible to make it a larger scale, and it might be. So but we're gonna for now probably just stick at 1/8, so we have enough space. But it's that easy to change the scale in Revit. And we're gonna put our drawings probably in an order where we have the front elevation here, and you can see that as we move things, there's automatically a aligning. So you can see the aligning of levels, also the aligning of different elements, like the aligning of the title. Right now it just says south, west, east, and north. And so we can come in here, since this is a bit large, and we say maybe this could be with a little bit of shadow, and we put that up to top over here. And then what we can do is add our perspective, and our perspective was created in our 3D views, and we just drag it and drop it, and we have this here. And though you see the crop region, we can simply take that off very easily. And if we want to make this perspective change the size, we actually would have to move it, so we'll get into something like that later. But right now, since we don't want to show the crop region, we just select all of these, and we just click that the crop region will not be visible. So now you see everything on the page. And so that's how you get your Revit project onto a page. This has been a fun little project. One thing we might want to add is some titles on the rooms. I think when we add that, that will finish this set off for just getting an idea across. So we go back to level 1. We come in here, and one thing that we'll do is go to our architecture tab and our room tag. So now we'll look at how do you put room tags in. And when you click room tag, it will know if there is a room or not. You have to create the room first. So you'll see where the rooms are automatically, if something is a room that you want to be a room, or if something isn't. So since some things aren't rooms, we can always come in and add a room separator, so we can get a clear, definitive space. Now when we go to create our rooms, we have a little line that we want to remove. When we go to tag our rooms now, after we create the rooms, actually it's automatically tagged. And we just come in each of the rooms and we'll change the names after putting them in. And the great thing about this is if you can always move up and it will align with the closest tag. As this is getting pretty small, we're looking at our page size again to see if we could possibly make this a larger scale. I think we can. And as we get to a larger scale, and actually we might just even do 3/32. Sorry, 3/16 size up. And the great thing about 3/16 is we go to all these, we just keep them all the same size. We just lay out our sheet a little bit differently. And after that, everything has automatically gotten larger. And what we can do is we can line up our plan. And one thing to note is that you can't click to points in your equivalent of a paper space from AutoCAD. You cannot click on points like that in Revit. Like if I can't click on that particular point, so be mindful of that. It's a bit of a fail-safe, I guess, so you won't be going back and forth like in CAD. So yeah, use a line to align these, and move in this one as well. And then we just come back, and we could use our mouse. It's a little bit low, so we come back up a little bit, and want to make sure that we're we might reverse the order of this drawing, and it's this easy to move things around. And we see that we actually went to the line of the house. We want to move it to the line of the house to house. Just click this over here, and we see that we see it's larger. We see our elevation tags are a little bit far out, so I'm going to bring that in. You probably want to match it a little bit, so come over here, and we double click to get out of the viewport space. And now we can just come over here. We see that's aligned, and we come over here and do the same thing. We've aligned that one. And our drawing now is here. And what we can do is, as we want to probably enlarge our perspective, and you see when you click on it, you can see it how it looks in the window. If we walk closer, we probably want to walk back just a little bit. We can get a bigger size, and we double click on that again, or just single click really. You might want to just zoom in a little bit and pan a little bit, so we've made it larger in the viewport. And don't worry, the viewport crop is not visible, though it's useful to see what's going to be shown on the page. We might do away with the site plan for now. We have a few titles we want to add. We want to just say that this will be our kitchen and dining. So we have it already tagged, and we want to label this our foyer. We just have to click on the text. We'll just say master bathroom. And we actually can go in here and also tag by making rooms for the water closet and the shower. We don't need this dimension any longer. Shower. And we can actually come in here also and add a little bit of notes, not too many. We just press TX, or if you go to your annotate, if you're adding text, just click there. And we can just add different items. And if the text is too large, you can click to see if the family is in there for a smaller text, and it was. But if you can always edit a type. If you want it to be 1/16, just say duplicate and just type in a name, and then you put that over here. And there's some other information, but that'll be all we need for right now. We can always just make that a little bit smaller, and we can add a couple more, maybe for the range. And since we want that to be the automatic class for our text, we can, next time we click TX, all we need to do is select that, and that'll be automatically typed in for us. And because it's sort of middle aligned, we can actually change that alignment right here. You see some of the text properties. We can click this one, and it's already, oh, it's not actually centered, so we click this and it'll center. And we can go ahead and just, because we have a laundry here, we'll add a tag. Oh, add a room and a tag. And we're gonna have this down here. This right here is our pantry. This is our laundry. And these right here would probably be our built-ins. So actually I'm going to draw a line for these. It's not the full Revit way, but for right now we'll just put a line here, and we'll make a detail line, and I press DL, and we'll just put built in. And for this text, you can see there's some press escape to get out of that. When you click on a text, it gives you the ability to just rotate it, and it automatically snaps to 90. And I press copy, and I just click a point to another point. And we also want to label our porch, and we probably actually want the porch to be a little bit bigger, so we clicked 1/4 if that's fine. And that's actually too big, so we're going to come here and select on that and make it a little bit smaller. Let's see if v30 will work. It's a little, we're going to make a new family for 30-second aerial bold, and it says 5/30, and we'll click bold. We probably wanted to match the size of our other text title, so we're going to actually duplicate, and this was actually going to be our 1/8 inch aerial bold, and right here we're now 3/30. And so you can see also, in addition to adding this, and we're gonna have our front door open end because that's typical for residential. We just flip that direction. You see our lines are a little bit unbalanced here, so we want to come back actually and correct it. Before we're going out to print, we're mirroring this line. Press MM to mirror, and I'm going to align this with this inside wall. and probably move our room separator. Alright, so we have our drawing set. We can do some naming here. So this is one of their templates, and you can go in just like we did and edit it. We can just name this Revit Project SD drawing set, and this is a family, so you could just tile it in here, and it talks about the scale, and we don't have to worry about that one, but you can always go in and change it. Again, it's just double clicking it. And our finishing for this project, we will just print it out. We'll choose Adobe PDF. We'll go to our properties, and it's printing just like from AutoCAD or other programs. You select the size, press OK. Okay, in this dialog, it tells you if you want to create multiple. We only have one page, but it can also create separate files. And then you also can choose if you want to print the current window. You can print a visual portion. Pretty much the basic style. Obviously, if you're using a lot of drawings, it's going to be important. But if you're just doing a short drawing, a few drawings, then this is fine. We're not going to save a set. We're just going to do the current window. We can preview the drawing. It says it will rasterize because of the rendering. Press close. So it's loading that up. We can see how it's going to come out. Taking a little long, but everything is basically in here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and press print, and we'll choose a name. We'll just place this in our Revit folder, Classic House 1. And we have a name, and then we'll just press OK. And it's loading and it's printing, and we'll see a beautiful set very soon. And my dialog actually X twice, so I called it Classic House 1. So it's loading through PDF. And the rendering sometimes takes long, so be mindful of that. If you're printing a large set, you might want to print some of the bigger drawings separately and then just add them in. Alright, so that's been printed. As we load it, we can see our output. It's taking a little bit to load. Again, that's probably a very big file. And there we are. There's our first Revit house in classical style. I hope you learned a lot with this example. You've seen the basic ins and outs of first getting that model in, putting it together, and then going through and communicating it out through your views, through your sheets, and also going back and forth between things you have to work with your families and the output it's going to.